based in Singapore. The team is about 10 people now. And today I want to introduce you to what we're doing with blockchain technology. It's a smart bicycle on blockchain technology. And the advantages of this will be shown in the slides, which I'll share with you. So the story that we tell is about the third generation bike sharing. So the first generation of bike sharing is when the cities or the municipality will put the bikes in a public place in racks, and then there's some lock and key system to retrieve the bike. The second generation is what we're familiar with from the Chinese companies like Mobike and Ofo. And these are a rackless system, which you unlock using your mobile phone. And the third generation is fully decentralized. When we talk about decentralized, that means that there's different merchants who can participate in the value chain and the information recorded on blockchain so that they could interoperate. So the first opportunity really is to overcome a lot of the negative impact of the second generation bikes. So these bikes have been used as a one-way ride from the train station to home or to work. People ride and drop the bike. And this results in a lot of sort of negative social impacts. And what we're trying to do is transition to a system where the bikes are not commodity, inexpensive $50 bike, but a more premium bike which can be enabled with technology, like the navigation technology that you've seen in the video. And we focus on round-trip rides. It means you pick the bike up and you return it. And then we will provide incentives to promote good behavior of the ridership. Where this problem really comes from is centralization. And we know Bike closed down in Melbourne and Singapore. And because it's a very centralized model, people cannot get their deposit back. What's worse is they cannot get their data back. When you sign an agreement with Ofo or formerly with Obike, they can use your data and resell to third parties. So that data in liquidation can actually be sold off. You lose control of your data. So this is one of the problems of centralization. And what we're trying to do is we're introducing a mechanism whereby it's fully decentralized. So the bike supplier is one operator, one part of the system. Then there's a fleet services operator, which purchase insurance, maintain the bikes, and find retailers. And then there's a retail service provider, which might be a hotel or a resort or something like that, even a WeWork, where you can collect the bike and go ride. We also support a P2P model. So if you take your leap of imagination, you can see how these bikes can fit into the urban environment and take their cues, for example, rerouting of the navigation from the city. And also we can support other types of mobility. So it could be e-scooters or other types of mobility that can be shared and monetized using the same blockchain infrastructure. So the reason we use the blockchain is because it offers transparency and the auditable integrity, so the commerce model will be quite open. However, there are privacy considerations with this openness in the blockchain, and later you'll see that we have some privacy technology which address this confidentiality, so the merchants are sharing information between each other and the individual is not giving up their information. We call it a protocol because the IoT devices are able to tie into the blockchain. So what happens when we talk about firstly a smart bike, we're talking about a bike which has a GPS and a remote control lock. And these are IoT devices which then integrate with the rest of the system. So the system may include wearable devices or apps on your mobile phone, the smart lock on the bike, of course, and then all this data going back to the blockchain. We have a partner, Volata's video you've seen earlier. This company is based in San Francisco. They're using a Milan-based design from Italy. And the bike is really a premium bike. These are over $1,000 US in value. And the bike includes a computer built into the handlebars in the headset. And in the fork on the front, the lights are built in. So notice that all the parts are integrated. The wiring is internal. Pieces don't fall off. Nobody can steal these things from your bike. The GPS is hidden inside the frame. And the front wheel acts as a dynamo, which powers the electrical system. And the rear wheel has no gearing except the internal gearing. So there's no greasy gears, and you'll see that there's a belt there. It's a carbon fiber belt. So when you're riding, your pants leg is not having any grease. The tires are puncture proof. So it's a premium high-end bike. And we think what's exciting about smart bike technology is in the high end. So we want to sort of like Tesla to start at the high end and then go down in price, rather than starting from the second generation $50 bikes. Okay, so this is the application stack, and what you can see is that we have a ownership of the bike. This is using ERC 721. So instead of a QR code on the back of the bike, we're actually using the sort of CryptoKitties technology. So the bike has a biodata, and this biodata is also tied to the GPS, so we know where it is. If there's a loss or damage to the bike, it can be traced. For all of the IoT interfaces, there's a firmware, so we can provide an open source or reference specification, and we can provide firmware to the hardware developers who want to integrate devices with this blockchain. Some of the technology pieces here are zero knowledge proof. This is the privacy layer. So this is the way that even though we're in an open blockchain environment, we can still provide privacy to the various merchants. And there's a search engine that goes along with this. Obviously, if you have data that's encrypted, how do you get it to search, right? So we have that technology, that transaction matching engine, and then at the lower level, we have P2P storage, IPFS, and so on. So this is the utility model. It's interesting, the bike with its 721 smart contract has a wallet address, and the rider pays into the wallet. So the bike has a wallet. So the rider pays the bike, and then the bike does the distribution of the revenue share. So all the merchants are sharing in revenue. Perhaps the bike supplier is getting 40% and the others are getting 30 like that. We can also support a model where the fleet operator and the bike supplier are the same. We can also support a P2P model where the owner of the bike is the fleet operator and they're renting directly to an end user, a rider. We can support a model of sort of a benefits pool so that we can keep building incentives to keep the riders sort of engaged in the system. And what we end up with is a beautiful ecosystem where different merchants can easily get started. So you can imagine any bike supplier can come in and provide IoT that meets the spec. Anybody who want to operate a fleet, let's say you have $20,000, you can invest in some bikes and start operating a fleet. Then you go and find the retail operators, maybe a resort, maybe WeWorks type spaces. And so all of these people can sort of start independently. So unlike Mobike and OFO, which have to go like city by city and roll out, this can start organically right across cities in Europe and the United States and Asia. So there's a lot of validation for the model of bike sharing, although we know about all the problems because we're here in Singapore and have seen the collapse of GoBike. But worldwide, there's 227 million bike share users in 2017. And in next year, 2019, it will grow to over 300 million. The cities that these riders are in at the moment are mostly China. So it's about 80-20 with the rest of the world. And of course, you know, Copenhagen and many European cities, they love bikes. They use, 50% of the share of urban transport is bikes in many European cities. So we have a great opportunity to go to some of these bicycle-friendly cities, and they're underserved by the current bike-sharing technology, and then introduce our model there. Now, in terms of addressable market, it's really a little difficult to come up with this, but the total market for bikes is about 55 billion now, and growing to 80 billion in the next 5 years. It's not a huge growth rate. It's like a 4% a year compound annual growth rate, but it's growing. It tends to be at the high-end bikes. It tends to be a little bit from England, right? And you want to make it a rental bike. So not at this time, but at some point you would just be able to get the components that comply with the spec and put them onto the bike. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a bike, right? You can do it for a two-wheeler mobile device or anything that that complies and will run according to your spec.
That's the beauty of the whole sort of concept of urban mobility. So it could be any type of devices, three-wheelers, four-wheelers.
Or whatever that you make yourself or whatnot.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's very open platform.
You have it's open source on GitHub.
Not
for
at the
that
present
part of
moment.
it.
At the present moment,
For
is
that
it
part
not?
of it, is
I
it?
think that you can get the support on the open hub, the GitHub.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good,
so
good.
you can go to the website to see.
Yeah.
Other question? Okay, thank you so much.